Next on Currents News, who will be NYCHA's savior? Priest on the street of New York calling for change.
Just continuing to have to hold NYCHA's hand to the fire.
A NYCHA nightmare unfolding just in time for the next mayor. Then a DACA ditch, not so fast. Bishops around the country and the president calling Congress to act to save dreamers. Drive after drive, the Diocese of Brooklyn out on the green. Bishop DiMarzio's golf outing raising money this year for hospital chaplains. And we're off to the races.
Without my faith, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't have gotten to this point.
Meet the Catholic Olympian with God on her side. Where will they cross the finish line? The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Emily Drewby. Can the next mayor, whoever he is, save NYCHA? That's the big question on the minds of more than 40,000 residents living within the New York City Housing Authority. Long plagued by mold, cracks, failing elevators and boilers, homes there are falling apart. Currents News' Jessica Easthope got an exclusive look inside the NYCHA nightmare unfolding at the Gompers houses on the Lower East Side.
It's been a year and a half since I had a sink or cabinets.
You heard that right. This NYCHA resident who doesn't want to show her face hasn't had cabinets or a sink in nearly 600 days.
It's been stressful. I already deal with depression, anxiety, and it's just like an overload on top of that. What am I supposed to do? Where to put your pots and pans? They're in the garbage bag.
A leak on the floor above hers in the Gompers houses on the Lower East Side forced maintenance to rip everything out. And the not-so-temporary slop sink they gave her just adds to the problem. This happened just days after her gas was restored. That was out for over a year. NYCHA's solution, a hot plate she was forced to use to make food for her 2 children. One is in a wheelchair.
I want to put in for a transfer, but I need to be close to his hospitals, and I don't know where they'll send me. It's a struggle every day. You know, what can you do?
She pays $1,200 a month for this space, despite the roach infestation. And she's not the only one with complaints.
These are life issues, and these are, like you say, quality of life, but it is life.
Fix her apartment, but
Father Tom McNamara works with hundreds of residents, and he says the neglect is out of control. According to a report from Citizens Budget Commission, within 10 years, 90% of NYCHA housing will have deteriorated to an extent that it wouldn't be cost-effective to repair them. The resident we met today says the city has let her fall through the cracks, and she doesn't have faith any official could help her out.
Things that's supposed to be changing with housing that they keep promising, but I'm not seeing any change. I don't have too much faith in the next mayor.
Back in 2014, NYCHA lost a federal lawsuit that mandated it to fix any issues that violate federal health and safety regulations.
And if that doesn't work,
Father Edward Mason, who also advocates on behalf of residents, believes the problem may just be too vast.
they weren't doing it, they can't do it. It's too large. But the agreement is still in place, so we're constantly now fighting, going back to the judge, going back to the federal attorneys.
We reached out to NYCHA, both about the apartment we visited today and general neglect across the city, but our requests for comment were not answered. On the Lower East Side, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Conditions in New York City's public housing have gotten so poor, they're even getting the attention of the president. Biden has proposed pouring $40 billion into public housing throughout the United States, but big-time New York Democrats are saying they need even more than that. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Representative Nydia Velázquez wants double that, $80 million, to address the mold, old roofs, leaky pipes, and other conditions. NYCHA alone is estimated to have more than $40 billion in outstanding capital needs. That's not the only problem the president has on his hands. There's also talk of ditching DACA. A federal judge ruled that the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program is illegal and ordered the administration to end new applications. Now Biden and the bishops are on a mission to save it.
Appeal the case, number one, but number two, we're going to make sure that a number of my Republican colleagues say they support the right of dreamers to come.
That's President Joe Biden's plan of attack, fighting for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals policy, or DACA. The program delays deportation to undocumented immigrants who were brought to the U.S. as kids, also known as dreamers.
Your mom or your dad says, I'm going to take you across the Rio Grande and we're illegally going to go into the United States. What are you supposed to say? Not me, that's against the law.
On Thursday, Vice President Kamala Harris met with Dreamers.
To have to live with the level of uncertainty, to wonder whether there's a knock at the door and what will that mean for you, for your family, is just wrong.
There are 600,000 active recipients in the U.S., 26,000 of them in New York, and 1.8 million who are DACA eligible. Last Friday, a federal judge out of Texas found DACA to be unlawful, blocking the Biden administration from approving new applications into the program. It's the most recent battle in a long war against the program. Catholic leaders joining the fight for immigration reform. The USCCB writing, "As a church, we recognize the inherent God-given dignity of every human person, regardless of immigration status. Therefore, we will continue to call for comprehensive immigration reform that preserves family unity, honors due process, respects the rule of law, and addresses the root causes of migration consistent with the common good." Cardinal Wilton Gregory of the Archdiocese of Washington doubling down on that statement during a press conference Wednesday.
When the loss of these rights forces individuals to migrate to other lands, we must welcome them, protect them.
New York Senator and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer joining Cardinal Gregory to fight for Dreamers.
That vicious, brutal court decision on DACA. I was furious. I was frustrated. We are going to do everything we can to provide a pathway to citizenship for the Dreamers and many others.
Democrats are planning to include immigration measures like a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers in the upcoming spending bill. Now to another feud on the president's plate, to mask or not to mask. That's the big question around the country, especially on the minds of parents who don't want their children to have to wear them during the school day. The commander-in-chief weighing in.
The CDC is going to say that what we should do is everyone under the age of 12 should probably be wearing a mask in school. Those over the age of 12 who are able to get vaccinated, if you're vaccinated, you shouldn't wear a mask. If you aren't vaccinated, you should be wearing a mask.
The president also said that COVID shots for children under 12 should be expected soon. Moderna and Pfizer both launched trials of their vaccines for kids under 12 in March, and results could come as soon as August or early September. Meanwhile, a Michigan Catholic school is already choosing not to mask and is suing the state because of it. Resurrection Catholic School claims the mask mandate was a violation of religious liberty because the masks covered God's image and likeness. While the mandate has been lifted there, the school is continuing with its case to ensure the requirement doesn't return. If you're tired of masks and are looking to get vaccinated, grab a pen and paper. Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens is hosting a pop-up vaccine clinic at the Catherine Sheridan Neighborhood Senior Center in Jackson Heights. That's at 3524 83rd Street in Queens. There's no appointments needed. Vaccines are available to New Yorkers aged 12 and older. All you need to bring is identification that verifies your age. But hurry up, the clinic ends Friday. All throughout the pandemic, hospital chaplains have been fighting on the front lines and offering spiritual support to thousands of suffering families. And now they're getting a bit of support themselves, all thanks to Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio. Our anchor, Christine Persichetti, is out of the newsroom and out on the green for a special day of golf on Long Island.
It is a beautiful day here at North Hills Country Club in Manhasset, and as you can see, the golfers are out on the greens having a blast. And we are at the 26th annual Bishop DiMarzio Golf Classic. And you know, it's beautiful in more ways than one. First of all, I mean, this weather is gorgeous. I'm told it is perfect weather to be out on the greens. But you know, it's also a beautiful day because we are raising a lot of money here today. And just to put it into perspective, over the past 25 years, DeSales Media Group has raised some $1.6 million at this tournament. And DeSales Media, which is the parent company of Currents News and also hosts this tournament, they're hoping to raise this year tens of thousands of dollars, and we hope they do, because this money will go to the hospital and healthcare chaplaincy program. And you know, if you think about it, during the pandemic, those chaplains were crucial. They risked their own health to support thousands of families across Brooklyn and Queens. And one more thing, this year's honoree of the Golf Classic is the Most Reverend Kevin Sweeney. And you might remember just last year, He left the Diocese of Brooklyn and was ordained as the Bishop of Paterson, New Jersey. So a lot of exciting things happening here today, and I will be back on the anchor desk tomorrow, and I'll have an update on how much money was raised. See you then.
Turning now to Chicago, where yet another Christopher Columbus controversy is brewing. The city and its mayor are being sued by a local Italian-American group for the removal of a statue. The Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans say Mayor Lori Lightfoot requested the removal of 3 Columbus statues nearly a year ago as a safety precaution during protest, but they still haven't been put back.
The mayor took down the statues in the vein of security, of safety, because at the time there were protesters, looters, like it was all around the country, and they wanted to pull the statue down. So she decided to take them down, as she mentioned, in the interest of safety. Who would argue with that? That's fine. But the word was temporary that was put in there. It's a year later, and not only are the statues not back up, but there's been no dialogue. We want a plan.
That was Ron Onesti, president of the Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans. The group says the removal of the Columbus statue from a city park violates a written agreement stating the statue cannot be removed without their approval. Now to a special announcement about Currents News. Our team is moving to a new studio. Starting this Monday, Currents News will air an abbreviated newscast during its regularly scheduled time slots, so we can move our operation to a new location. The shorter program will still allow us to update you on all the important headlines of the day. Currents News will be back to its full length this fall. Remember, you can always stay connected with us by visiting our website, currentsny.tv. There's a lot more news headed your way. Catholic athletes going for gold, why one Olympian is thanking God ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. And the world saw a surge in alcohol sales and consumption during the pandemic. We follow one man's journey to sobriety.
During the height of the pandemic, I was drinking almost every day. The only time I didn't drink was when I had my daughter.
And a Massachusetts man is honoring the flight attendants who died during 9/11. His story when we return. After a pandemic and months of waiting, millions of TV viewers around the world will be tuning into the Tokyo Olympics tomorrow night. But one of the athletes proudly representing the USA has been waiting longer than that for her shot at gold. Rower Christine O'Brien believes it was only through the grace of God that she can finally compete in this year's games. Jessica Easthope has her story from Long Island.
There's a quiet fierceness to Christine O'Brien. The water is still, but her heart races.
You're pretty much on a full-out sprint. It's very intense, but yeah, it's really awesome when you're in a rhythm with 7 other women. There's honestly nothing like it.
Her aim in the boat, go fast. But when she walks out as part of Team USA at the Tokyo Olympics, she'll want to slow down and live in that moment as long as she can.
The dream come true. I've trained a long time for this.
Growing up in Massapequa Park, Long Island, Christine learned how to row at St. John the Baptist Diocesan High School. Since then, her rowing career has had setbacks and successes. Gold medals, championship titles, serious injuries, and being cut from the 2016 Olympic team. But through it all, her Catholic faith empowered her to stay the course.
Maybe I had more in the tank, and I had faith through all of that. I thank God for everything.
Now she'll be competing in the women's 8 alongside the best in the world in her first Olympic run. But long before she ever stepped foot in a boat, Christine was part of a different team.
My mom worked 5+ jobs and to give us a good life. While she worked, my grandma took care of us, and it was kind of like a team effort.
Christine and her twin sister came to the U.S. at 2 years old from Ireland. She doesn't have an accent, but what she does have is a strong sense of family and faith, thanks to her Irish roots and her grandmother Nancy, who stays close to her heart.
She would just be so proud. I pray to my grandma a lot, because I know she'll take care of me, and she's watching over me.
Right before Christine steps into the boat in Tokyo, she'll do what she always does, say a Hail Mary. She's worked tirelessly toward her goals, but the rest is in God's hands. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
You can show your support for Christine and the rest of the U.S. women's rowing team this weekend. Christine will compete in her first race on Sunday, July 25th at 11:30 a.m. Tokyo time. That's just after midnight here. Her crew will battle it out against Romania and Australia. Less than 24 hours before the opening ceremony kicks off, the pomp and circumstance is being shrouded with controversy. The director and composer of the show, Kentaro Kobayashi, has been dismissed from both positions for past comments that, according to Olympic officials, quote, ridiculed the painful facts of history. Those comments come from a 1998 comedy act about the Holocaust. Kobayashi later apologized in a statement. Then, in another unexpected change of events, the Archdiocese of Tokyo is canceling its pastoral program for athletes due to the rise of COVID cases. The program is meant to take care of the spiritual needs of the athletes, featuring events such as an international mass and a special rosary. The city has been placed in a state of emergency by the government, and as a result, the athletes will not be able to leave the Olympic Village, nor will priests have access to it. Other effects of the COVID-19 virus include surges in alcohol sales and consumption across the world, but particularly here in the U.S. With stay-at-home orders in place for most of 2020, Nielsen studied the trends. Their findings: Nielsen reported a 54% increase in national sales of alcohol in March of 2020 compared to the year before. Frequency of alcohol consumption increased 14% overall for women and 17% for men compared to 2019. Those increased numbers in daily drinks was also followed by an increase in addiction. One council member right here in New York has been open about how he developed a problem during the pandemic. Eric Ulrich, New York City council member representing the 32nd District, is here with us now. Eric, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So now, was addiction something you've struggled with in the past, or was this really the first time?
You know, I don't think that I struggled as much as I did during the pandemic. When the lockdown occurred, everything was closed. You couldn't go to work, you couldn't go to meetings, you couldn't go to a lot of the places that you might otherwise be going to, and one of the few places that was open was the liquor store. You know, liquor stores were open, and you know, the drinks were flowing, and everything else, including church, was closed. So, you know, it made it very easy, I think, for a lot of people to become alcoholics, or for people to struggle more with their substance abuse issues.
Yeah, I mean, food and drinks, it was really one of the few things that we had to do. I wanted to bring up something that you shared on your social media. This was April of last year during the height of the lockdown. The post says, "I've been trying to color this Easter egg for the past 20 minutes, but it's not working." It's a cute, kitschy post, again, very on par with how people were feeling and staying entertained during those early days. But how did you know when it went from fun to a problem, the drinking?
Well, I would say that before the pandemic, I was definitely a social drinker. I'm somebody who enjoyed having a couple of cocktails every now and then. But when it became a problem was when I started drinking alone. When I got back home to my apartment and nobody was there and I was drinking by myself, it became a problem for me when I was blacking out, or when I woke up the next day and wasn't quite sure how I'd gotten back home. So I think that for some people it's hard for them to recognize that they had a problem. I knew that the pandemic made a bad habit much worse. Yeah. And that it was getting out of control. It was destructive. It was definitely affecting my relationships with others. Mm-hmm. It was affecting my ability to do my job and to do it well. And it was something that I was not very proud of, something that I wasn't happy about. So I decided to do something about it.
How did you seek help for it?
I'm a public person, a public figure, and I knew that I could not solve this problem in secret or anonymously. So I decided, in a sense, to out myself, to admit publicly that I had a problem. It helps me keep myself accountable, helps me keep myself sober, and it also helps other people know that I have a problem, so they're not tempting me or encouraging me or buying me drinks or sending bottles of alcohol over to me around the holidays, or the things that you might otherwise do. And then to talk to folks who are in recovery, That's been extremely helpful. Talk to folks who are involved with AA. Talk to my priest and my friends who are.
And you are Catholic.
I am Catholic, and I think that God definitely helped me get through it. I wake up every morning and I say, thank you, God. Today is day 97, and the first person I think of in the morning is God, and say, thank you, God, for letting me have another day and to be sober and to have the willpower and the courage to do this.
Yeah.
You can't do it without God.
You've been through so much, and you are such an inspiration to people who are struggling still. Thank you so much for joining us. Eric Ulrich, New York City Council member representing the 32nd District. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, contact the Program for the Development of Human Potential at pdhpbrooklyndiocese.org. One man in Massachusetts will be celebrating 6 years of sobriety in September, but it comes during an anniversary much more important to him. Former flight attendant Paulie Venito will push a beverage cart from Boston all the way to Ground Zero in New York, honoring the flight attendants who were on board the hijacked planes during 9/11. The journey will span over 200 miles. Paulie is using this opportunity to raise money for the families of victims and their foundations. He is also collecting donations for people struggling with addiction. If you would like to support Paulie during his journey from Boston to Ground Zero, just head on over to pauliespush.com and click donate. Still to come on Currents News, defying the odds, how this 78-year-old grandmother is doing things most people her age can't do. Meet your next gym inspiration, a New Mexico woman who's proving that you can do anything you put your mind to. And as Sasha Leninger reports, the 78-year-old powerlifter has already set 4 national records.
Dressed in matching shirts.
Hey, both of us got NASA shirts
I
on.
know.
You copied me. Did you plan this?
It's straight back to work for Linda Patterson and her trainer Derek Williams.
I can hardly wait to do it again. I've got a lot to work on.
The number one priority for me in the competition was to make sure that she got home safe without injuries, and we absolutely achieved that goal.
Over the weekend, the 78-year-old grandma who had knee surgeries and a lack of mobility following a car crash took part in her first ever powerlifting competition.
I didn't go to do anything. He thought so, but I just thought, I'm just going to do it because it's there to do.
Now, Linda put on quite the show. Here are her best lifts. The first, her squat at 71.63 pounds. Next, the bench press at 66.12 pounds, and the deadlift at 132.24 pounds. In all, 269.99 pounds. She set 4 NASA records.
78 is just a number, and people get fixated in their brain about the age 78. You're supposed to be something, but it's not a definition.
She hopes her story inspires everyone to go after what they want to do.
I don't compete with other people because that's kind of ridiculous for me. I just want to be my best. And if I'm my best, that's perfect.
In Albuquerque, I'm Sasha Leninger.
Before we go, just another reminder that our team is moving to a new studio. Starting this Monday, Currents News will air an abbreviated newscast during its regularly scheduled time slots. The shorter program will give us a chance to update you on all the important headlines of the day while we move to our new location. Currents News will be back to its full length this fall. Our commitment to Catholic journalism is as strong as ever. So remember, you can always stay connected with us by visiting our website, currentsny.tv. And that is Currents News. I'm Emily Drewby. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.